Right then, carbs are connected back up to the bike. I just, because I'm going to replace this hose anyway, I just dragged it all the way back out. You can see it's a long one, comes from the fuel pump, goes all the way up under the tank and down to the carbs. Anyway, into this T-piece, which goes up into the two T-pieces that go to those two carbs and then those two carbs. So, little trick for you. When you've had your carbs off, float bowls are empty, or if it's been stood for a very long time, when you turn this on, I'm just going to turn it on, but listen down here. Don't know if you heard that, but you're going to hear it again. Because what I'm going to do, that was the fuel pump just ticking a couple of times, which it is wont to do, but it's based on the engine turning over. So normally what you do, you put your key in, you hit the start button, it goes, and it goes on for about 5 minutes, and then it starts to cough and fart as it starts to get a bit of fuel. So don't do that. Just turn your kill switch off and turn it back on. Ready? And it clicks again. So you get another pump. So what I do is just rock that backwards and forwards, on, off, on, off, on, off, and I keep going until I hear the clicks slow down, and that's it filling the float bowls. And hopefully then what you're going to see is no fuel coming out of them, and there isn't any fuel coming out of that. Oh yep, there is. Little leak. It's that same flipping O-ring. Alright, so I'm going to have to do that again, but the carbs all look good. So I've got that O-ring to do, but carbs are fine. So unfortunately that means loosening the plenum again, but okay, we're almost there. Let's just turn this off. Right then, so we made a start on the tappets. Got the rocker cover off the back, made easier by not having carbs. Normally when you take this thing off, you loosen it, separate the rubber O-ring, I'll show you that in a second, but you separate the O-ring that sits around, there's a spacer on here, I'll show you that as well. So you take the top lid off, separate it from the O-ring just to give you that bit more clearance, and then you've got to get it to pass that thing. And it's a lot of wiggling to get it sort of forward, and then you turn it. Go look on V4musclebike.com, and Magna on there has got a great, very detailed with pictures how to get this thing off. But regardless, not having the carbs on meant I could basically just slide it forward and bring it out here. So carbs are going on last, and we'll get on with this first. So the two things I did wrong when I did this last time, let's try and not repeat them. One is I used the wrong size feeler gauge. That's just me being stupid. Now, another little bit of a trick. These things, apparently, you're supposed to put a feeler gauge under both of them. If you look, there's basically 2 exhausts and 2 inlets. They're 4 valves per cylinder, these things. And what they say is if you just put one feeler gauge under one of them, that the whole thing can rock over and give you a false reading. I normally follow a trick. Again, I got off V4 Muscle Bike where, okay, just use a slightly thicker feeler gauge. So instead of 5 thou, I use a 6 thou, because it doesn't, these things are, you know, I dispute that they rock. But as you can see, I mean, even here, the amount of clearance there is way more than 5 thou. I can feel it. So I'm not sure what I did. I might have used a 0.5 mil. It certainly feels like 0.5 mil. It does not feel like 5 thou. It is moving a lot. So all that was not helped by me setting this to number 2 and then doing the tappets on this side. So this is number 1 cylinder, I now know that, and it's 5 thou, and I know the difference between that and 0.5 mil now. So this time I'm not drunk and I'll do it properly. So hopefully we can get rid of some of that rattling. However, I'm a bit concerned about what was happening with that number 3 cylinder. I'm hoping it was all carb, I'm really hoping it was all carb, because there was a lot of soot on it, and it could be something a bit more serious, and I think it might be worthwhile while we've got it in pieces. Let's get the spark plug out of the number 3 cylinder, and I'll put the camera down there and we'll have a look inside, see what's going on. So that's that, and then while we're at it, there's the little CM125. I've made a slight change, which you probably can't tell from this side, but you can from the back. Oh, L plates on it, because my wife Keely did pass her CBT and she is now riding this. I won't say she's loving it yet, but anyway, I mentioned while I was doing this that I was going to look for some twin exhausts for it. This is a replacement set of exhausts for a CB125TD from eBay, which are way too long, but they're sort of the right shape. The proper ones end about here. They don't go anywhere near as far back as that, but never mind. And what I had to do was, I don't know if you can see just here, hang on, just where these clamps are, I cut about 50mm out of the middle of this pipe, and then put a sleeve on and clamped it. And apart from that, it fits almost spot on. I had to bend these brackets back this way a touch, just so that as they were clamped up, it gave me just a bit of space between that nut and the side of the can. And they sound awesome. So we'll see how she gets on with it. So that's that, but for now we're busy with this little beast. So I'm going to make a start on them. Need to get that side cover off next, and I'll show you what you need to set them on, ready for number 1 cylinder. Okay, right then, that's them first ones done. So basically there's a mark on here, I don't know if you can see it, and then the two most important things, you can see where the crankcase joins together here. You've got the upper and the lower, and there's a definite ridge line. You can't see the front of it because of this, but where I've just marked that, just there, that's where they join. And you basically want this T13 for the 1 and 3 cylinders on compression, lined up with that mark to set the valves on this side when this cylinder is on the compression stroke. So what you do, stick your socket on here, plugs out, spin the engine over with your hand until you see the T13 mark coming round, and with your finger in here, your finger in the spark plug hole, literally block it up with the end of your finger, and as you turn it, you'll feel the air pushing out, so you know it's on compression. Okay, so once you've got that lined up, then you can set them. Now, 2 ways of doing this, I would argue. So when that's on compression, what they say is 2 5-thou feeler gauges, 1 in each side of these, or a 6-thou and then a 6-thou. Seems to work as well. That's the way I do it, because I've only got 1 set of feeler gauges. I'm too cheap to buy another set. So with those set, well, the way the book says to do it is to go 240 degrees until the 2.4 comes up, and that gives you number 2 cylinder, and then 90 degrees and then 240 degrees. There's too much maths for my brain, so all I do is I do these ones, and then I go 360 degrees until 1.3 comes round again, and then I do number 3 cylinder, and then look for compression as you come round to 2.4 on the marks on here. and that gives you that one, and then 360 degrees gives you number 4. So that's the way I do it. So they're set. On the back one, I'm going to reassemble that. I'm going to put some new gaskets in. Now, I said I'd show you these. So these big arse gaskets on here that go all the way around, because this has got this spacer, there's 2 of them, one on the lid, one on the spacer. Oh, and the lid, it's got an arrow on it that goes towards the front of the bike, very important. I believe this does too, but I've not been able to find out why, so I just mark an F on the front of it like that, just so that I can't mess it up. But yeah, that's those ones. One other word of caution: if these O-rings are leaking, do not tighten these down to try and stop it from leaking. These snap off, they're designed to. So as soon as that touches ground and you nip it up, that's it, that's as far as it's going, because that touches the bottom, that locks on the bottom, and then the threads tighten up, and this is then tight, and it's the compression of the rubber that keeps it tight. So you can't compress it anymore because that bolt won't go in anymore. All that happens is it'll snap off. So just want to beware of. Right, I'm going to put this back together. I've got some new gaskets, so I'm not going to use them. I'm going to put these back in, see if they leak. If they don't leak, great. I can use the 2 that I've got on the 65, I think. And if not, I'll just come back, take these back off and change them out. Right then, I take it back. Took the radiator, where is it? Oh yeah. Took the radiator off. What I normally do is I just normally loosen the top pinch bolt here, undo the mounting bolts each side, undo the bottom hose, pull that plug off, and then tilt the whole thing forward. And it just suddenly dawned to me, for the sake of undoing this one plug, one Jubilee clip, and taking that bolt out, I can just get it out of the way. So I had to drain it anyway. So yeah, and as you can see, the front's a hell of a lot easier to get to. So I'll take that cover off now. No spacer on the front, so just one gasket to deal with. This, by the way, this is an exercise in patience. When you're putting these rubbers back in, you've just got to take your time, and I mean really take your time, and just prod and poke and prod and poke and prod and poke until it sits right. These look okay. Everything's gone down nice and tight, and then when you've done on both of them, go around and just make sure that they're sitting in all the way around, especially at the back. I put, this is a new one which has also got a bit of RTV on, because I stuck it in there. I got fed up of trying to get it to line up, but that is a new one, and I didn't replace it last time, and this piece of rubber here, it spat it out, and the oil sprayed up and ended up down in that valley down there, and then pouring out that side of the bike. So my horrendous fuel leak, oil leak that I was talking about on this one before, was caused by putting an old gasket in and it throwing that piece out. So anyway, get this off and then we'll carry on. Okay, that's these ones done. I didn't bother showing you the loosening the nut off and turning that down with a feeler gauge in until it's just pulling, because there's plenty of videos on YouTube about that. There's a really good one from Addicts for a V1000 Interceptor. Look that up. He shows you how to do it. But the good news is the cam chain is not mega loose, so that's not slapping. I checked the back one as well. It feels all right. I think we're getting there with this cam chain, but I'm not going to change it. There is a bit of a rattle, but I'm pretty convinced these are double springs in here. There's a spring inside a spring, and I think I've got a broken spring somewhere. I haven't found it yet, but I'm pretty convinced that's what it is. So there's a bit of spring rattling around. And there we go, all buttoned back up. Coolant back in. Which just means all I need to do now is loosen that plenum up, pull the end carb off, change the O-rings on that pipe again, It's quite common, you know, when you put them back together that those O-rings leak. They're new O-rings, but okay. Clean them all out again, put another new set in, try again. Get them carbs back on. Then I'm going to swap out this cracked fuel line. Reroute it this time. I've got it coming up through there, but actually it's supposed to come up the back of here, through there, and follow the top of this under there and into the top of the bike. So I'll try that, see if that helps me out with this kinking problem. I've got a couple of genuine hoses to throw in the other side of the pump. One goes to the fuel filter and the other goes to the tap. Well, fuel filter to tap, and then tap to pump, and then the long one is pump up to the T-piece that goes into the carbs. So I think I'm going to leave it there for today, and I'll have a go at them carbs again tomorrow, get them stuck back in, and let's get this thing fired up and take it out for a run.